All right, this is going to be a bit more of a quick-hitting video here. I just want to watch a few clips from the 2023 NFC Championship game where Trent Williams put on an absolute clinic in pass protection. And there's a few things I want to highlight in Trent's technique that he's able to replicate consistently throughout the game that incorporate his awareness and experience as well as his elite athleticism that puts him in the upper echelon, maybe even as the best offensive tackle in the NFL. So we're starting with this rep here. He's primarily working against James Houston in most of these clips, and this one's no exception here. And I want you to notice how wide Houston is to start. So first thing in Trent's technique that we're going to highlight is his set. And I think Trent Williams, first of all, is one of the quickest setters in the entire league. It gives him a huge advantage in protection. And this video is a perfect example of that. You notice how wide Houston is, and primarily basic coaching point for tackles is the wider the rusher is, the deeper your set's going to have to be. So Trent's going to have to cover a lot of ground, and you'll see that he does in this clip here. He covers almost 5 yards of space in his set before he even makes contact with Houston. And it's impressive how square he's able to remain because of how quick his set is. So it puts him in a really advantageous position, being able to set that quickly to wide techniques like that. And it's rare for him to lose off the ball and be at a disadvantage off of the snap. So that's the first thing. His vertical set is elite, and he's really able to gain an advantage through how quick he is. And then the other thing I want to talk about that you'll see a lot throughout this video is his pocket awareness. So with him covering a lot of ground, he could set forever against Houston here, but obviously he wants to take away Houston's pass to Brock Purdy. And we talk about being square for tackles, how important it is to be square initially off the ball, and Trent does a good job of that here. But there is a point where you don't want to be square anymore, and you want to turn as this edge tries to work an angle or gain an edge to the quarterback. And Trent does a really good job in these, you'll see in these clips, of being aware of where the quarterback is and staying in a strong relationship to the quarterback in his set. And a good indicator of that is whether the numbers on your back are facing or aligned with the overall body of the quarterback. So Trent's numbers you see here are aligned with and pointing at where Brock Purdy is. So that's a great indicator of being in a good position. And then another coaching point you hear about a lot is this is a tip of the spear point and teaching point, where they say you want to keep your nose to the inside ear of the defender. So Trent does a good, in essence, you just want to stay inside out, and Trent does a really good job of that here. So his awareness of where he's at in relation to the quarterback is very strong, and he gets himself in a perfect position at the point of contact with his relationship to Purdy and how quick his set is, and then he easily lands that outside arm on that, you could say, outer shoulder pad or arm of Houston there, and is able to get a good fit with that hand and anchor down. Trent, his hands, he throws them at the same time, but they don't land at the same targets. So you can say whatever you want about his technique. It's kind of a double punch or a two-hand punch, but either way, he lands it well because of the position he's in. It takes away any advantage James Houston might have, and he's able to anchor down really well and give Brock Purdy time to get the ball off. So long-winded video about one play, but it's a lot of the techniques that we're going to highlight in these videos, and you'll see him repeat this throughout. All right, next clip here, and Houston is a little tighter on this play. Williams doesn't have as much ground to cover, and the rep is over immediately right here off the snap. Trent gains such a huge advantage off the ball, already being at the spot that he wants to be at to take on whatever rush that Houston's going to utilize. When a rusher isn't as wide working against Trent Williams, it takes out a lot of room for Williams to make an error, and he rarely makes them in the first place. So you're going to have to definitely beat him off the ball to beat him when you're working against him with that leverage. And Trent does a really good job of winning off the ball and getting to the spot immediately. And he lands his I also want to mention before I talk about his hands, we talk about being square in your set and the advantages that it has of taking away potential room for a two-way go for the rusher and to put you in more compromised positions for being turned and not being in control of your body. So Trent does a really good job, you'll notice here, staying square. Good indicator that is typically when your inside foot is up the field for 2 reps. And Williams does a good job of that here, only turning as Houston is about to work that long arm that he's working and play into Trent. And then his hands, too. His hands have been, throughout all the clips I watched in this game, his hands were elite. He's a 2-hand puncher here and lands both hands here, gets a good fit on Houston, is able to anchor down and give Purdy plenty of time in the pocket from that left side at least. And one thing I'd also want to mention about his hands is how quick they are, too. Once he is in a good position, obviously he wins with his feet here. He's able to snap his hands off, not lose balance despite potentially being in more of a compromised position here. And once he lands his hands, his feet get back in sync right away, and he's able to anchor down. So another rep here where Williams is able to repeat some really strong techniques and gain a huge advantage on Houston and give Brock Purdy time to try and make a play. All right, next clip here, and Williams does a good job on this rep here, even getting Houston on the ground there. But the first thing I want you to notice is how comically wide Houston is. I would call that about a 7 million technique here. But one thing I want to highlight about Trent's rep here is we talked about his awareness in his set. I mean, how quick his set is here. Gives him a huge advantage as well. But we talked about his awareness when working against these wider rushers, of his relationship to the quarterback and wanting to be in a good relationship. A good indicator is if your numbers are pointed to the position of the quarterback, your numbers face up where the quarterback is, and you see Williams is able to get to the spot before Houston can initiate contact and be in a perfect relationship to where Purdy is. So Houston's honestly at a bit of a disadvantage with how wide he is on this play. But Williams, we talked about his awareness. He does a good job of being able to settle down and be in a perfect position to take on the rush of Houston before Houston even gets there. And then his hands here, he almost gets himself into a little bit of trouble with lunging with his hands here. But in the last rep we saw as well, his feet are so good. He's so athletic that he kind of is able to regain pretty good base and recovers really well even when he gets himself into a bit of a compromised position with him throwing that 2-hand punch. But he also does land the punch too, which helps to reestablish your base, and he does a good job of that here. So really strong with the vertical set again, getting himself into a good position with that set in relationship to Purdy, and then good job with his hands settling down. And then Purdy makes an awesome play here. This is another 3rd down, and Purdy's able to escape and throw back across his body to Juwan Jennings, who makes a good catch, and the Niners are able to convert that 1st down. All right, this is going to be the last clip we watch here, and rinse and repeat of all the things I said on the last rep. Houston super wide again, and you notice Trent is able to get to the spot again in a really good relationship to where Purdy is on this play, and the awareness also gives him an advantage in that he's very patient when he gets to that position. And this time Houston just decides to play right through him, speed to power. And you don't want to play through Trent Williams' chest. He's going to be able to anchor down pretty easily like he does here. So another really good rep playing against a wide technique. Wins vertically and then has that good pocket awareness and ability to know his relationship to where Purdy's at to take away any advantage Houston could gain there, and then does a good job of anchoring down. So 4 quick hitting clips. I kind of rambled on a bit on a few of them, but overall really good pro by Williams in this game, and you're able to see a lot of the techniques that he utilizes that he's able to repeat consistently throughout a game that make him probably the best in the league If not that, definitely top 3, top 2.